And because when I was back in another line, they said, you have to pick one. I had put down 2. I thought you could do, well, I'll just go along for a while together, both of them. And they said you had to pick one. So tears were in my eyes. I didn't know what to do. How could I pick one? I don't even know what I'm supposed to do. And I picked nursing. And I always was wondering all my time in nursing, did I do the right thing? This is hard. And it's really hard. If you have nursing friends, it's hard. And just know that it's really hard. But the Lord carried me through it and carried me through some jobs. And then, we were in Africa, and I didn't really do nursing in Africa, and felt God's call on my life to ministry as well. And so I studied, and then I got a master's in ministry. I was also at a school, but again, a different school even than the others that we're here for. But God still used my life and still wanted me to be, I guess, both. So sometimes I could actually, when I'm with patients, I could just minister to them freely. I was supervisor of a little hospital. And so it was kind of small, so at night most of the time you couldn't get the chaplain, you couldn't get, anybody that you needed, even the social workers weren't around. So if families were in trouble, things happened in the emergency room, I could just be there in my heart for them. I think I could have done that if I hadn't even studied any ministry. But God was just using my life. And I would cry out, why aren't we missionaries, Lord? I know that we are supposed to go back, aren't we? That was like the first 10 years. And then after a little while, we began to feel, well, life is going on. God is not in that anymore. That was a call, and it's complete now. So here we are doing other things. In fact, I was a nurse manager, and I felt just so strongly I must quit my job. Came home that night, and Lynn and I both said to each other, guess what? I quit my job. Uh-oh. That's like a movie, I think there is a movie out there about Dick and Sally, well, that's bad. So but it was okay in the end because we both had a few months, we weren't just like not going to go back to work tomorrow, but we had both done this and wondered, what's happening in our lives? I guess, we're about to semi-retire. And then we get this understanding that there's a need for a missiologist. I've asked some children when we're doing our deputation, what do you think a missiologist is? One answer was, I think they take care of animals. And I thought, I was a teenager, and I thought, well, maybe the world is not knowing what a missiologist is, but I know because Lynn is one. He loves people who are lost that need someone to understand how to go to them, how to reach them, and how to minister to people cross-culturally. So if there was somebody that needed a missiologist, then I think we should go. And at the same time I thought that, I was really scared because it was Asia Pacific that was calling us. I was an African girl. My heart was like given to Africa. We loved Africa. And it wasn't just the animals. It was the people and the life that was growing in them. And, we thought that we would go back to Africa. But Asia Pacific, that's where Christians are persecuted. That seems scary to me. I don't know anything about Asia Pacific. But God did. So, got on a plane and there we were. It is so hot there. I'm telling you, it's hotter than Africa, at least the part we were in. If we were in Cote d'Ivoire, that was hot. We stopped there once. That was really hot. But from South Africa to the Philippines, it's worlds of difference. So humid, like you have here sometimes, this humidity. Only I think we just saturate a little more humidity in there, and you've got it. It's just really strong humidity. But the people were so kind. Now, they were packed in. They're packed in everywhere in Manila where we lived. And we thought, are we going to get to know anybody? How does this work here? This is a different kind of a place. So we came to the campus, and we stayed there. And on that campus are all these cultures coming from all around the world. And some of you know this. We've been in your churches. And it's so wonderful to experience that. And yet, you know, the thing that was the beautiful thing was that they were hospitable to us. They would take us out places. One young pastor wanted to take us to a restaurant. So we went to this restaurant, and in this restaurant, it was an old Spanish kind of a home from, I don't know, a couple hundred years old, full of paintings. And the paintings weren't that old, but the paintings were for sale. And it was packed with those, but it was in the evening, and they closed off all the rooms upstairs. But this young man, Lionel, wanted to go upstairs with me. So I wanted to go upstairs. I wanted to see all the paintings. So we had to flip on lights and to get up there and look at all the paintings. And it was just so beautiful and so different. And so I didn't know what to think about all this. It was just unusual art. And Lionel, he was a young man in his early 20s, I think. And he and I walked over, and we were looking at this one painting. And he said, oh, I said, I like this painting. He said, oh, that painting speaks to me. I thought, wow, what a thing to say. That painting speaks to me. So I asked him some more about it. And here's this. I wish I had that painting. I actually went back later to try to buy it, and someone had bought it already. I don't think I could have afforded it, but I wanted to buy it. It was of a mom and dad. That's how he saw it. In a little house, but it was on the outside, and they're on their porch, and they're feeding corn. There's some kind of apparatus. It wasn't anything like I've seen before, but where they put the corn in the top, and then the husband, his dad is, cranking it, and then his mom is out here collecting it and doing something else with the corn as it comes out. And that was cool to me because we had seen so much rice, but we didn't know where they were growing their corn, and I was missing corn. So I was kind of tickled to hear about corn. And he's telling me all about this. And there's the fence, and there's these baskets, and there's chickens in them. And then on this fence is another basket, but this is the eggs that they collected from those baskets over here. Here's a little dog like my dog, and here's a little boy. That's me. And I said, I want to come and see you. I want to go there. I need to get out of the city. I want to go to your village, far out, wherever it is. And he said, well, I want you to come too, but there's one challenge. And the challenge is the CR. Now, the CR is comfort room. And I saw you have a comfort room here, but not that kind. A comfort room as in restroom. So he said, that's the challenge, because we don't have the same as we do here. All of Philippines is the CR. And so I knew from that their restrooms had no walls and no ceiling and no doors, and it was just somewhere outside you find. So I knew this would be a challenge, like you said, and I really wanted to go, but I really wanted to get to know Lionel. I watched him on campus then, because then we began to get more involved, and some time is going by, and I'm watching him, and he's very quietly being a part of some of the worship teams, and he's helping with them. And along the way, they asked me to be chaplain, and I became chaplain, and I started to develop worship teams. I wanted to do, I'm just going to tell you a secret, I wanted to be like Lynn. He might not know this, but when Lynn talked about his sad heart while he was in Botswana, at the same time that he loved his children, he loved those young pastors. They were being called to be a pastor as they listened to Lynn. And it was how he built them up, how he gave them encouragement, how he didn't let it be about himself, but about them. He empowered them to do things, even if they try and fall. It's okay, here we go. Let's go again. So I thought about that while I was with my leaders, the leaders of the worship teams that we created. It hadn't been done that way before. I'm trying new things, Here I come in, this older lady, and I have this dream, you know, to create worship teams and to let them do their thing, you know. And so they said, oh, Mom Sherry, we need drums. Our drums are broken down. What can we do about that? We need to be in the air-conditioned room, not outside in this hot place. And they called me Mom Sherry. That's the way the Filipinos pronounce ma'am. It kind of goes, so it's mom, but I didn't like it. So sometimes I would ask him, can you just call me something else, Miss Sherry, something, I don't know, what can you call me? And finally I got used to mom, and I said, okay, but I'm interpreting it mom, that I'm the mom of the campus. So Mom Sherry, can you help us with this? Can you help us with that? So I would help them find ways that we could get the things that we needed to make chapel beautiful. And as I watched Lionel, he wasn't a leader of one of the teams, but he was like, he'd stand here and play his guitar, and if someone was struggling, finding a key, finding the rhythm, finding anything, he knew how to gently, you know, help them find what needed to be done. And I'd watch this in practices. And he really would help pull things together, so he was like an invisible leader. I watched that, and it really thrilled me. I was like, there's something about this guy. And then he had, like, music. You could begin to see if you just had your eyes open a little bit and your ears. He had music oozing out of all of him. So I asked him, Lionel, could you help me this fall? I'm going to be in America going around telling churches about what the Lord is doing in Asia Pacific. Could you help me and lead all the teams, lead all the worship teams, and coordinate the whole thing? And inside, I'm feeling very scared because I'm thinking, oh, he's going to think it's too much. He's going to think, I don't have time for this. This is overload. What should I do? Is this right? And he later told me something that really touched my heart. This is what he said. We are preparing for the semester now. And me personally, I need to make the things prepared before the semester starts because I know that it will be very challenging once school starts. You know that I've been dreaming to be in the ministry of music for the rest of my life. This responsibility is a big blessing to me. What? You don't know how much it means to me. I know it will not be perfect, but I'm excited to learn and explore. Thanks for this opportunity. Maybe to you that's not very much, but for me it was like the whole world. I could hardly tell Lynn about it. Even now I can hardly tell you. Just to know that, you know, it's like this hope. We put our hope in Jesus, in God, like Abraham. Hope against hope. I love those words in Romans that say Abraham with hope against hope, you know. And nothing to say about my gray hair and that I'm getting older and really he's going to use me? Well, that's really to say everything. He's going to use me now? Now at this stage, he's going to give me the time of my life? Now at this age? Wow. The Lord is so good. So I wanted to know more about this call and this dream that Lionel had. And so I asked him, and he said, you know, I felt God. I mean, I kept getting pieces and pieces of his story, so I hear it here and I hear it there. But I'm going to try to piece it together for you how he knows. He said he knows that God's grace has been on him since the womb. And first he said, since I became human. So I thought, does he mean, is he wording that unusually, like born again? And he said, no, ma'am, I mean, he calls me Miss Sherry because a long time at the start I said, please call me Miss Sherry. So he says, Miss Sherry, I mean, from birth, I always wanted to serve God. I don't know how. I don't know why. But you know, we've heard last night a lot, and I was so excited about it, that God goes before. It's not us who thinks of it. And that made me so thrilled because hope against hope, Lionel believed. And he put his hope in the unfailing love of the Lord. So as he grew, he would try to please God, please his parents in every way. And he got so excited about all that. But he wanted to sing, but his dad said, no, you can't sing not around me because you sing terrible. And his dad loved music, so much so that when Lionel was born, he named him Lionel after Lionel Richie. So he didn't want his ears hurt by his own Lionel not singing well. I'm thinking, wow, that must have been a blow, So he had to sing other places and alone, out in the fields where he's working or anytime in any place. And he couldn't let his dad know. So as he grew, he kept wanting to do things like play the guitar. And he played until he became addicted. That's how he words it. I became addicted to playing the guitar so much that I didn't study. And when I was 14, I failed every class in high school. So his dad said, I'm done with you, And they had a lot of angry words because he wanted his son to excel and do well. And Lionel wanted to because Lionel thought he was going to grow up and serve God. And was it in a church where he knew God? It was in the Roman Catholic Church. He thought, I guess I'll be a priest. That's what he figured it would be. But now his dreams are getting shot down. But he left home and he said this, okay, I am going to study like crazy. So he put his guitar behind him, he put music behind him, and he said, I hate music. I'm just going to hate music so I can really, really study hard and do well. And so he did. And he had a former priest came alongside of him and discipled him and loved him. And he grew and he got done with high school. And he said, I'm going to go into the military. And there's a 1 semester gap. So the man who was discipling him said, I want to put you in Bible college. So he said, okay. So he goes to school. And he said, this is how he says it. I walked up to the school. There's a steeple on it. And the church right there. And he said, I realized I'm at a Protestant Bible school. He didn't know that that's where his friend was sending him. So he got into the Bible school and he thought, wow. What is going to happen here? I don't know what to do, but I guess maybe I'll learn about God. He said it was easy for him to enroll because he's just there. His friend sent him. He's going to serve God. He's going to find out some more about God before he goes into the military. He wants to get better so his parents will like him again. This is kind of how he worded it. And so the school was having a lot more challenge enrolling him because it was a former Catholic priest that was his sponsor. It was a child with no money, zero money, nobody to help him. How can we enroll this kid? Well, they did. And all along the way, Lionel sees God worked a miracle that they let him enroll. They asked him, what church are you from? Well, and then he named the Roman Catholic Church. And he says, well, who's your pastor? Well, I don't have a pastor, I have a priest. He said, well, what district are you from? All the questions we asked, Nazarenes or other church people, and he had no idea. He just said, well, I'm from Cebu, a different island on the Philippines. And then he kept studying, and he loved it, to the point he decided to stay. And when he stayed, he finally kept going until he was ready the last year to graduate, but he hadn't paid anything on his school bill. Finally, they gave him a scholarship to pay part of it. And when it was time to graduate, the whole bill was paid, but he didn't know who did it. And that was his form of getting his bachelor's, his preparation to go then to APNTS. He said, so without hesitation, I enrolled at APNTS. And then, without hesitation, I had no money. Again, I still enroll. And I knew God was in it. I knew God was going to take care of me. He really trusted him. He really did. And he said it was awful hard. He said after a little while, students were encouraging him to go ahead and play again. And he kind of resisted and then didn't want to. But then he finally tried it again, and he said, my fingers seemed to remember. It had been 3 years. My fingers remembered how to play. And he said, then I began to play with different things. And so I'd play in a worship team. And then when everybody left, I'd practice the other instruments. I didn't have any teachers, so I just learned the other instruments to teach myself. And so now you should see him. He can play everything. But it's like it's in him. He knows pitch. He can tell you what key you're on, what key you should be on. He's just like gifted. The Lord has touched him. And yet he's the humblest young man I've ever seen. At the end of the year, he really wanted so badly to see his family. So after the first year at APNTS, he went home because they moved to the city. He could help pastor a church there. And he had 5 different people in his family come to Jesus. He said first he had to just tell his brothers and sisters. He couldn't tell his mom and dad. He knew it would make him mad to hear about a Protestant anything. You know, they didn't want to hear it. But his brothers and sisters would listen to hear that they could know Christ as their Savior, that they could come to him and he would love them and they would have a new life. And pretty soon, after a while, his mom came to the Lord and he sent me a picture of him going home and baptizing her. I know that Lionel's heart is rejoicing because his family that was alienated, the family that he loved, the family he always wanted to please, now we're coming to know Jesus. And Lionel still doesn't have a sponsor. He doesn't know how his school bill is being paid. I don't know how it's being paid. I don't know how he makes it. He says sometimes it's so hard. And he said during the Bible school years it was so hard. And there was no money. And he said I had no food. I'd be really, really hungry. One day there were 3 days he had no food. And he was sitting on his bed and he thought, I don't know, Lord, what to do and how I can keep studying. And his roommate came in and poured out some money on the table. And he's looking at that money and he said, oh, that's enough to go buy supper for myself tonight. And his roommate said, oh, this is for you. Someone gave it to me and I can't tell you who, but they just wanted to be sure you had something to eat tonight. And all the time he can tell stories like that, and he's not the only one. There are so many people in the world that are living, like Erna's family there. We know Erna. She also ministers music on campus because she's in the that World Mission Communications office is on our campus. So we get to see her and see her life. It's not just a story pulled out of a hat to bring a tear to your eye. It's real. And I loved the way Kelly talked about we could give to our Nazarene children of pastors so that they can actually have a chance to go on and serve the Lord and grow up and be loved. We should take care of them. I really believe that. The beauty of what happened to Lionel was this. He said every time it wasn't easy, and I wanted to give up. I couldn't because, and this is what he said to me, my feet can't walk away from the calling of God because he directs my path. When Lynn and I came to the Philippines, and we still had heartache for our children, still had heartache to be with our grandchildren. We had one more, the only one, the 7th one that we didn't get to be with. When you have that little bio of us, it says 6. We had one more after that we didn't get to be there for. And, you know, I know lots of grandparents don't get to be there for their grandchildren the way they want to here in America. But it did kind of break my heart that we couldn't be here. And I wanted to be with my children. But I can see it so often, and there are scriptures that came to me this week in preparation for today about your sons and daughters and how they'll come home. And our son was away from the Lord. And just May 2nd, he came home. And he said it that way. He said, I heard Jesus saying, it's time to come home. And we just learned about it about a week and a half ago. And my heart was just overflowing. When Lynn opened the way of sharing our hearts today, I'm thankful because it feels here at this assembly like God is just here and you people are full of love. And you know what it's like to love a child or a parent or a brother or sister or a close friend that doesn't know him, or that wanders, or that's lost. And when they come home, there's nothing like it. And some of you who are young and someday will be praying for your children or praying for them now, just trust and know that you can trust God. And if you follow him and let your feet stay on his path, then he will take care of your children and those things that you can't because you left and followed him. There's nothing like following Jesus. I wouldn't trade following Jesus for staying home and knitting or sewing by the fireplace, reading a good book. Sometimes we get tired. Sometimes we think, oh, we don't have the energy we did. But I thank God that he is so faithful even when we are unfaithful, and that we belong to him, and we will continue to trust in his unfailing love.
Thank you, Sherry. Okay. If you'll open your booklets to the very first page. On the workshop schedule, maybe it's the second page, there's been a change in the classroom for the second session Spanish workshop. You will be going to room 6, and I think it says 5. Is that correct? So you'll need to go to room 6. That's the only change in that. The president's workshops in English and Spanish, we ask that all presidents and pastors attend. Since Global Convention, they're changing several things, and it's important that you know so that you can start planning for this year and just keeping track of things and just information that's important. If your president or pastor is not here and you are representing your church, please come so that we can send the packet with you. Please don't ask me for your packet before the workshop. You'll need to come to the workshop to receive it. I'd also like for you to turn to page 33 in your booklet. There's lots of great opportunities in the booklet for you to be involved in ministry in one way or another, but I would like to draw your attention to the Jesus Film Harvest Partners. There's a World Challenge going to be in Wichita, and the Newlands and the Hefners are helping sponsor, and Elaine Cook. This is an opportunity to learn more about Jesus Film, to get involved, to give financially. And if you are interested in that in any way whatsoever, please contact them and plan to come for an evening of food and entertainment and just education. Jesus Film is doing incredible ministry all across the world. And like the stats say, it says $3 equals one heart won to Christ. It's actually less than that, but $3. So I wanted to bring your attention to that. Next year convention speaker we have already booked, and that will be Scott Dooley. So we're very excited for that. He will also be on a tour across our district during that time as well. So Tim talked about deputation and missionary tour. I want you to realize that that is one and the same. We've always called it deputation tour on the district. That's what Global has called it for years. But when Danilo and Emily Aguilar were here, he said, when we do these missionary tours, I'm like, oh, I like that. That makes more sense. I think we can say missionary tour and people are going to understand exactly what that is. Because honestly, when they say deputation, I always think of Barney Fife. I just do. It confuses my brain. So we're going to try to start saying missionary tour on our district. I even said this to Lola Bricky, this whole thing, and she laughed like you did. But she goes, oh, I like that. But when you send in some money for a missionary who's been on tour, you do need to write in the memo deputation along with their name. It's the same thing with the links, and I'll go over this in the President's Workshop. But when I got the report for our links, not every church gave. It's not listed that every church gave. I am assuming that you all gave. But the thing is that when your treasurer or your bookkeeper or your pastor, whoever does it, don't just send it in a lump sum and figure they're going to just put it wherever it needs to go. You have to specify where you want it to go. That's so very important, and especially for our links. Our district is the only one that has them as links. And I thought maybe other districts had them as well, but they don't. And so the amount that we have in that packet, we feel like that is very doable for every church to give. But if you can double that, please do that. That helps them. That is just like cash in their pocket that they can use for whatever they need. And then the deputation tours on top of that helps them with their expenses, their living, their insurance, their anything that they need on the field. So thank you for your generosity, and I encourage you to continue to be generous when we have missionary speakers come into your churches. The last thing that I have is when you dismiss for lunch, you should have, whoever registered your church for lunch should have received today some yellow lunch tickets. Because it's a ticket that says lunch on it. And you'll need to have those out, and when you walk into the fellowship hall, then there'll be some buckets, and you just need to drop them in the buckets. And then we did a very simple lunch this year. There's sandwiches and some salads for those of you who need gluten-free. Just to try to speed things along a little bit. And there's no entertainment. We're just going to have music. We just want you to visit and get to know each other a little bit and have fun. On the tables are just several different things. We have collected pictures that we have taken throughout this year that has done anything with missions on our district. So the Work and Witness trip, our children's and youth missions retreats, anything that we highlighted in the blast as far as receiving a picture, and our links missionaries. Those are on the table. So walk around and see. It tells a great story of what we're doing on our district and all the different people that are involved. It's very encouraging and very fun and exciting. Also on the table is a copy of our last links newsletter. Please read. Take them with you. We send them out the first of every quarter. Our Blast newsletter is a monthly newsletter that we send out the first of every month that has just some real quick information. It's a one-page newsletter. We do try to highlight different Kansas Nazarenes and who have been in the mission work in one way or another over the last couple of years. And just global news and anything that's coming up with district news, things that we feel like would be important for you and your church family to know. Please print them or post them, pass them on via email. Get your people involved. Let them know your church is not the only church out there. They have such an incredible support of churches all across our district and across our world. So thank you. I'm going to dismiss our council right now to go help set up with the lunch. And I probably should have done that 2 minutes ago. But if you will go ahead, you blue shirts. And we have a special guest with us today, Will Hayworth. He is a former NMI district president, and I invited him to come and asked him if he would come and just pray for us and pray for our lunch. Come on. And if you would welcome him to the stage, please.
Thank you very much. What a tremendous thing to see what Kansas is doing. Wow. Last night's service, absolutely tremendous. And this, a tremendous NMI Convention. You are to be commended. You're doing a tremendous job. Let's stand for prayer, shall we? What great love the Father has lavished on us that we should be called the children of God, because that's what we are. Thank you, Lord, for the privilege. Blessed be the name of the Father who allowed us to be your children. And Lord, what we see around the world is a gathering of the family, the great family of God. 162 nations. And what we see here today is just some handles we can get a hold of to tell the story of Nazarene missions at home and abroad. And so use it in every church. Bless pastors, bless the NMI presidents, and bless our people, that we would always keep the mission in front of us, to remember we're called to our world. Bless now through this day. Thank you for all you're doing. In the name of Jesus Christ our Lord, amen.